And we are recording. Hello, Jay. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing really fantastic. And thank you so much for being on the show today. We're going to have lots of fun today. We're going to talk about the afterlife, what it all means. I have lots of fun, lots of interesting information. Because I know so many people have been asking questions. It's like, what's this whole afterlife all about? What happens? Where do we go? All that stuff. And I know from your story, you actually had an experience, like literally had the experience with the
Yes,
afterlife.
kind of interesting. But, at that age, don't really understand death. But I have to tell you, I've never felt the feelings that I did. And I don't think children at that age experience the type of feelings that I would have felt, I think, had I not gone through my near death. So it's interesting what it brings back with you.
Yeah, like I was so curious because it happened at such a young age for you.
Yes,
And again, I mean, you just don't have the tools to really interpret what's going on. You didn't have that life experience to kind of figure out, okay, what's going on here.
that's
And I know it's so profound for so many people when they do have that experience. It literally, like, it just changes their whole perspective, their whole life. Like they just come back and they're rewired. So, do you think that experience really just, I mean, opened up your psychic abilities? Like it just kind of just or they
I
were already there and it just kind of added to it?
I think they've always been there, but I think I never really noticed them until that accident. I was lucky, Michael, because my mother was a practicing psychic between
Okay.
1961 and 1983. So, I mean, we were all immersed in this business. We lived it. My dad had a private business as well, a driving school, and he was a miner. He did that full time. But we had people over every single day for tea leaf readings and lineups out the door since I could remember. And my mother also worked with the police in finding bodies. She was very good at it. And
Wow.
yeah, she was amazing. But my mother wasn't a medium, and she recognized this in me very young. And she didn't really call me a medium. It's actually a label that I received much later in life because people label you. You don't have to know what you are, people will label you. And I never really liked the psychic label, but I have to tell you, I have to use it because it's really essentially what I am. But my mother just told me that I was able to connect with energies that were always around. And that's the way she explained it to me. And the thing is, it was scary for me because my father hated it. He used to tell me to be quiet. They'd lock me up in North Bay. And North Bay for me, I always thought I was going to jail, for kids like me. But really, North Bay, as I, grew up and I become older, I realized it was a psychiatric hospital. So I was really quite embarrassed, by the fact that I had this, or that I could do these things. I mean, in the 70s, I was the identical at home. I knew who was calling. I knew who it was. I knew if there was an emergency. I don't know why. But then I kind of stopped using it for a long time because I was so embarrassed. And then, of course, when you're a teenager, you start to show off again, right? And so I went back and forth, but I never really thought I'd do this professionally. My mother always told me I would. And I laughed at her because I always worked in policing or I worked in courthouses. So I never thought I'd do this. I mean, I had great benefits, I had a great job, I had a
Sure.
pension plan. Why quit all that, and immerse myself in her life? I didn't want to do that because it's very exhausting.
It
But
certainly is.
yeah, but after she died, here I am. I quit my job and I went straight to work doing what I think I should be doing. So
Wow.
it's amazing what your experiences will bring you to. But coming back to your question, I just really felt different. I
Yeah.
always knew I was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who or psychic and stuff like that, they kind of feel that there's just this knowing. They don't really understand it, the gravity of it. But I
Yeah.
mean, how beautiful it was for, I mean, yourself to be in that environment already. Like you knew you had a mother that kind of supported, like she knew stuff, like she was already into it. She goes, yeah, I know my daughter's got some gifts. And
Yeah.
you're around that environment to kind of nurture that in the back. It's kind of like a little seed that was growing in the back that's always there. And it's like, it's
Yes.
normal. It wasn't so bad. Whereas you, I
No.
mean, then your father, on the other hand, is like, okay, I've heard that so many times. Actually, and it's interesting. My mother, and it comes from a line of psychics too, as well. So my mother had some psychic abilities when she was young, and she was told the same thing. They used to call her the little witch. That was her nickname when she was young, and she couldn't say, like, she would just blurt out stuff that, and everybody would look, stop saying that. And so she shut it off for the longest time. And it's
Mhm.
interesting enough, I'm basically a lot of the same way. I shut my gifts off for the longest time too. Well, Actually, I didn't know I had gifts, to be honest with you. I didn't know. I just thought it was crazy for the
Yeah.
most part.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know we're different and we don't know how to explain it. And people know you're different too. Like, they'll always say, oh, but my mother always taught me that gift was God's influence flows through. And so for me, I always hung on to that at a very young age because I always thought, God was helping me, but I didn't know what the heck God was. I just thought he was some big dude that really helped out kids like me. But it's amazing, I was lucky that I was immersed in this. We talked about everything from like, aliens to like death to everything, like, the unknown, ghosts, everything. And I always had a huge interest in that. So I work a lot with the paranormal as well, which a lot of people don't know, but I really love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, it's a lot of it's just the same. You just take some of what you know here and then apply it to there.
Yes.
And, with the afterlife, there are so many different ideas and thoughts about what happens. What is your perspective? Because I hear like there's so many things like, okay, so, obviously the Christian idea is that, hey, we go to heaven. But, and then there's the other idea too, is that, oh, we go to this hall of learning and then the soul goes there, and, or we go to a different dimension and we're learning there. So what actually, so once we leave our meat suit, where do we go?
Well, I believe that there's like an instant body soul transformation, of course, but then we go to a different dimension. But I think that we're all connected to that dimension already, through dream world, through that subconscious, unconscious being. Um, but I do believe that we just go to another area. I always believe that we come from there, however. So before we come here, we don't have a body, we don't have any of these things. We come here to this planet to learn our lessons, and then we go back to rise to a higher soul level, is what I think. you know really what happens there is it's kind of weird. You could perceive things the way you want to. I know that when I had my near death, the very first people, and I met them, I saw them as people, were my grandfather and my brother, but I knew them. And my mother thought that was really funny because I'd never met them. They died in the 50s, both of them about 6 months apart. And, and I was born much later than that. But at the end of it all, my perception of the other side, it is a little bit different. I think it's just that other dimension, but I believe that there's other different dimensions that we go to learn certain experiences. And I think that we visit those dimensions through our dream world. I know that I feel very connected to 2 or 3 very specific spots that I go to in my dreams, which I think that I've had other lives there.
Okay. Is there,
Yeah.
is there anything you can divulge on? Is there any place that you,
Well,
is it a familiar place that we all be recognizing? Like, some people say, well, I'm connected to the Palladians or other star groups or C groups that, is it something like that or?
no, I just think they're like different dimensions or different types of worlds that we go to. I even had visions, and I know it sounds really dumb, but I had visions of even seeing like parades through space and like visiting these things, and it's so beautiful. I can't even imagine that just being a dream or where I would even get that from. But I feel like I'm connected to it somehow. There's even this other city of water. It's all water, and it's not Venice, it's not anything like that. It's so different from Earth, but it's like I lived there before. It's just really weird. But I visit these places in my dreams. It's really
Wow.
strange. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's, I mean, I love that stuff. It's interesting. I mean, it's so nice to have like a conversation where you can actually talk to people like yourself. And I've had, the opportunity to talk, I've talked to Sean, I've talked to a few other, mediums and psychics and stuff like that. It's always interesting to hear their story and what their perceptions are, because, very much similar. Some are, our own experiences, but they're very, very similar in that.
Mhm. Yeah. And I do believe in that dream world is very connected to us. I mean, we have dreams. We can daydream, but daydream is the same as night dreaming as far as I'm concerned. The only difference between daydreams and night dreams is that you can control your daydreams, but we don't believe that our daydreams are really connected to the other side, but they are. In our daydreams, we're creators. We create through dreaming. That's what we do. We
Yeah.
don't have to have kids to create. But the thing is, my dreams come true every day. I don't know about you, but at the end of the day, there's so many things that I've wanted in my life that just come to me because I think that I believe that they're going to come. So I do make those dreams come true, but I do believe that we function in that dimension. And it's funny because I studied a lot of different people and different things, and I was really into Dr. Robert Lanza. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he
No,
talked
I'm going to write that down. Dr. Robert
about,
Lanza.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a speech of his that he did years ago in New York City. It was about an hour and a half, and it was so like scientific. But I got to tell you, I understood every single thing he was saying because he believes that people exist in different dimensions at the same time. So
Mhm.
that your subconscious being, if you're thinking something, you're actually living that. You know what I mean? Instead of just thinking it. So it's not just your imagination, it's actually, you know, it's like living somewhere else. It's kind of cool. But you shouldn't listen to him. Biocentrism is really different. But I was really into that for a while and I could just really relate to what he was saying about these different dimensions. And I understand nothing of that stuff. I mean, I wasn't trained that way. So, but it's interesting, you know, and I'll listen to different people, but really I've never really read a lot of books or studied anything about the afterlife. Or people say, well, who's your go-to medium, or who, you know, there's so many people I love, like you mentioned Sean. I think he's amazing. You
Yeah.
know, I love Sean Leonard. There's so many people I love, you know, but they all bring something different to the table. And I think that's what's so great about mediumship and
Yeah.
why I love doing this so much, you know.
Yeah. Like, so do you remember that one time where like you just kind of said, okay, I need to follow this. This is my passion. I need to kind of switch gears. Do you
Yep.
remember that day? Do you remember
Oh
that
yes.
time? Yeah.
The day my mother died
Oh, okay.
is the day my mother died. I came home to a sewer backup. I had 9 more that week. And I knew right away it was like someone telling me, you need to get off you need to stop existing at your job. I really disliked my job. I loved the people I worked with, but I
Yep.
really disliked my job. And I just went in one day. It was just after my bereavement leave. And I went up to my boss and I said, I quit. She goes, pardon me? I said, I quit. She goes, Jay, you can't quit. I said, I just did. She goes, but you can't. You have to give 2 weeks notice in writing. So I said, you have a piece of paper? She goes, yes. So she gives me a piece of paper. I wrote, I quit. My last day is in 2 weeks. Thank you. And I said, please don't tell anyone that I've quit. I said, I really don't want anyone knowing. I said, I'm going to take 2 weeks vacation. And I said, my last day is January 1st. And it was like mid-December. And she was really, really surprised. And she goes, you know, you're losing your benefits. You're losing so much. I said, I'm not losing anything, honey. I'm not losing anything. I said, I'm actually going to gain a lot more than just sitting here and existing. I said, you know, there's been a fire under me for such a long time. I've been so unhappy here. But I said, it's because I'm not meant to be here. And I said, I understand it now. And I said, I told her, I said, my mother always told me that I was going to do this. She goes, Jane, you're not quitting your job for that. Are you? Are you silly? She said, you have no benefits. You have nothing. I said, no. I said, I'm quitting. I have to go, Carol. So I quit and that was it. And I never looked back, but I'm telling you, I don't regret it. I don't regret it in the least. Inside, I should have been doing this years ago, but I think I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough. I didn't have enough life experience, you know, and I've been through some really traumatic type of situations with what I've experienced in my life through policing. I have been held up myself. And when you're at the brink of life and death, I mean, you think you're going to die, because I was held up against my will for about a half hour with a gun against my stomach in an office I used to work. And it really made me decide that what's really more important is really life. You know, I didn't want to work in the stress anymore. I was tired of like the rat race. And really, I wanted to help people. And I didn't feel I was helping people the way I should. And I thought that with the pain I'd been through and the experiences I had gone through, that I really served a better purpose there. And so that's what I did. But I have no regrets, Michael. I'm so happy doing what I'm doing now. So
Yeah.
it's great.
I can tell. Like, I mean, you actually glow. Like, you just, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, didn't meet you years ago, but I can just tell that glow when
Mhm.
somebody's living a passion and they're on that right path. And I always encourage people when you find that thing, and that's part of, soul's path, is to find that what your mission is and to be, and
Yes.
once you're in that, it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly your passion, but it's just something that your soul's journey. When you find that, you liven up. Everything just doesn't matter. Like, you just don't worry about stuff. You're just so into the moment and helping people. Things just happen.
Yes. That's exactly how I feel. There's not enough tea in China that you can give me to change my mind about what I'm doing. You can offer me hundreds of thousands of dollars doing something else. I honestly wouldn't be able to do it. I am just too happy doing this. Pardon me?
Ever remember your first paid reading?
Well, you know what? I didn't get paid for the first little while. I used to ask people if they'd be my little guinea pigs, and I hate to say it like that, but that's just kind of the language I use. And they were always happy to do it. And then I met a lady at a metaphysical shop who said, Jay, why don't you come and stay here part-time? I have Tuesdays and Thursday nights. So I started doing that, and I started getting paid very little. I think I was making $20 a half hour. And I was so happy doing that. And very quickly, word of mouth, of course, it goes really fast. It was like grass fire for me. And, I was lucky, Michael, because like within about 6 or 7 months of my career starting, I was asked by a lady to do like a get together for about 50 people at a women's show. And I said, okay, I think I can do that. I said, I've never done that before. She goes, no, really, all you have to do is answer people's questions and maybe talk a little bit about yourself. Well, I'd never done any stage work or any platform work. So when I went, they had advertised me, but there was a little problem. And so she came back and she goes, Jay, we have a problem there. What's wrong? She goes, we don't have 50 people. I said, oh, I'm so sorry because I thought maybe I didn't attract enough people. She says, we have 750. I'm there, pardon me. She says, we have 750 people waiting for you out there. I almost fainted because I'd never done this in my entire life. So I went out there and we had a warning from the fire department because the capacity was only 720 people. In November to do another one. This was in April. So she says, we're going to get the arena. That one attracted 1,100 people. So I thought to myself, maybe this is what I should be doing, you know? So I started doing that. And it was very early in my career, but I've been doing shows almost from the first year that I started doing readings. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And it just continued from there. I started doing my own shows and I thought, am I going to attract people? So I decided to go to Timmins for my very first show out there outside of Sudbury and just to get my feet wet. And I had some clients out there and I had a few people that said, Jay, we'll help you out. Okay. So I thought this is wonderful. So I decided to do a dinner show because I'd never done anything like that. I thought it would be special because these poor people in Timmins don't get a lot of, like entertainment or anything like that. So I thought it would be nice. How nice to have a dinner. So we got that all together. And so I told the lady, I have 400 tickets to sell. And even if we sold like 100, I'd be happy. So she phoned me 2 days later. She goes, Jay, we're sold out. I said, pardon me? She goes, we're sold out. And there are 400 tickets. She goes, well, I have 30 people on the list too. So you might have to do a second show. But that's what happened. It just took off like wildfire. So I think this is where I'm meant to be. From yeah. And from there, I extended out to radio and I want to do television. And I'm in the middle of that now. So I'm hoping that it goes well. I can't really talk too much about it, but I have signed an agreement and then I'm waiting for a series. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, if anything, if it's anything like the rest of your career, I'm sure it's just gonna fly. I mean, once this whole COVID thing gets situated, it's just fly into it. And then next, traveling the world, all these different places, location. And I'll have to call your agency to book you again to be on my podcast.
Oh, I'd be on your podcast any day, Michael.
Well, I thank you on that. But it's really interesting. I mean, because it's so fascinating where, you just had these small little readings, and that's the power of spirit. When you finally say yes to source, and they say, you know what, okay, Jay's she's on board. Let's get behind her. And then all of a sudden it's like whoosh, and it's like a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm. It is. It was like grass fire for me. I couldn't understand how quickly it had gone. I didn't understand how I'd become so popular just doing small readings and like one or two little shows. And I thought, wow, there's got to be a real need for this. Because really, there weren't very many mediums in my city when I started. I don't think there were any. There were psychics and card readers and intuitives and some amazing people, but nobody that really called themselves a medium. So I think there was a real need for it. And I think, maybe I was at the right place, the right time, but I honestly believe spirit had a lot to do with it because my life changed overnight, really, basically. Like within a year, I was so successful. And who starts a business like that? Just poof, right. And I'm just so thankful. Every day I'm thankful for everything I have. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So for those who are listening, because it's really interesting, because there's this podcast has actually got a lot of reach now, which is really pretty amazing. So for those who are listening, Jay is from a really northern part of Ontario, so there's not a lot of people out there. So it's a big province so it's like way up north. And it's funny, Timmins is even smaller area than where you're from in Sudbury, which is a mining town. And yeah, it's small. And I was interesting. I had this comparison in my head the last time I talked to you. You remind me of the Shania Twain of the psychic world.
You know what? A lot of people, and I know Eileen, she's such a nice lady, but I met her in Timmins too, believe it or not, many, many years ago. But a lot of people tell me that. I've been very blessed, even with management. I've worked with some amazing people. One of my very first managers was Shaka Khan's sister. And I was very good friends with her. And she says, Jay, don't you have anyone to manage you? And I'm there, no, don't need a manager. I'm a medium. Oh no, she's doing big shows. I got to help you, girl. And so she managed me for a year and a half. And then I had my cousin help me. I don't know if you know of Gil Grant, but he's a country music award winner. So we worked together for a little while, and he's the one that introduced me to the country world, because I already knew the rock and roll I can't talk, rock and roll world, but I didn't know the country world. And so I went out to Tennessee. I was lucky. I met so many amazing people. And now my management is now from Tennessee, and I have a great manager and a wonderful team. So I'm very, very blessed, but we're just waiting for this COVID to get going so that we can get going. So, yeah.
It's all about timing. That's, I've finally, it's taken me like 50 something years to figure it out, but I finally, it is, the universe has its own speed. My ego has its own speed. I want it now. I'm an Aries. I want it now. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Want it now? And it's like Spirit goes, no, we got the bigger plan. We see the bigger picture. Just hold yourself, and
Yeah.
we'll get things done. So that being said, with all the, people you've met, has there been any famous people you've done readings for?
Oh God, yes. I don't know. I have over 100 now.
Name drops?
Yeah, but I've read for so many people. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I've read for Van White. I've read, and she's beautiful. She's an amazing lady. I've read for Lisa Fisher, 6 Feet from the Edge. She sang for, and she was with Rolling Stones for a long time. One of my best friends, actually, I started reading with her for her when she was with Rod Stewart. She was actually in Prague. She was on world tour with him, and she was with Pink Floyd for years. Her sister still is with Pink Floyd, Durga, and Lorelei was with the Rolling Stones for 3 years. So she was with rock royalty, but now she's singing for Steve Hackett from Genesis and working with other people. And she's with Aussie Floyd. Let me see, actors, famous actors. I've read for a few. I've read for so many different people. I mean, I've just been so blessed. I can go on and on. Project Runway. So the star of Project Runway, the cast of Nashville. Let me see, Bucky Barrett from Roy Orbison's band. I've met so many people. I've met all kinds of celebrities. My manager manages about 50 or 60 celebrities, so I've met them all. And one of my contact, one of the people I work with, used to manage Rosie O'Donnell and different people like that. So I'm very, very lucky. I have a really good team.
Yeah, like is one that just kind of stood out, like one story that kind of like, kind of blew you away, kind of took you off, like it's like, wow, like this is crazy.
You mean in terms of readings or in terms of celebrities?
Well, even the celebrities, like say you had a celebrity reading, and it just like it was just mind blowing. What came?
There's one that I did without mentioning names. There's one that I did, and I said, look, I have somebody here that talks about 9:25 a.m. and 6:35 p.m. And she went, just a second. I said, okay. So then she comes back about 5 minutes later, and she's like shaking like this in the camera. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, my mother was born at 9:25 a.m. and she died at 6:35 p.m. So I had the time of death and the time of birth. but I didn't have any dates. But that was mind blowing. And I had told her, she at the time had a house in England. And I told her, I said, when you go out today, I said, look at the lions on each side of your gate. She goes, the lions? How do you know I have lions there? I said, because I see them. And I said, but one doesn't have a face anymore. She goes, shut up. I don't believe you. So 2 days later, she called me up and she told me she was having a swear Jayleen moment, if you understand. And I'm there, okay. She goes, Jay, I just come back from shopping. She goes, my lion on the left, someone took a bar to it. And she says the face is completely disintegrated. So she was flipping out, but she's still a really good client of mine. So yeah. So it's interesting. But yeah, I've read for people on movie casts too. I just don't remember the movies like Princess Diaries. I think, yeah, it's interesting. But and it's funny because they were doing a murder movie, like a murder mystery movie. So yeah, so I had to go clear it, but it was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. I love those type of stories. So you're basically now going to be doing this TV show, but we can't talk about it yet because it's not out there.
I'm hoping that well, the thing is they shortlist you, right? So I made the list with the producers and it's the show's already done. It's all like the budget's there and everything. We're just waiting. They're looking for 2 or 3 hosts of the show. It's a pretty interesting concept, which I can't discuss, but I'm hoping I get it. They hold on to you for a while. So they make you sign contracts. So I'm on contract until September. So I'm hoping to find out before then, but they had an issue with COVID, of course. So they're not going to send you all over the US to do this show if we can't do very much because of everything going on, and so we have to wait. The company is Canadian, so they're very mindful, which is really amazing. But I'm excited about it, so I'm hoping that it goes well. I also have my own show under development, and we're just waiting. Again, we're just waiting for that. But we've decided to go through with the other one in talking with management. So we'll see what happens because it's a show that would be on TNE and different networks like that, which is kind of cool. So fingers and toes crossed. I've been there before though, Michael. I don't get really excited because I shortlisted twice for Netflix when I was on another roster. I was on I just before I ended my tour with James Van Prague about a year and a half ago. Both him and I had shortlisted for a series, but I don't know if they had the budget for it. So that's the thing. But sometimes these things happen, you get all excited and then they don't happen. So
Yeah, I've worked in television for many years. I know
you understand.
all about it. It's one of those love-hate relationships. You love a lot of the people you work with. You love the creativity and that stuff, but the other kind of BS stuff behind it, like it's just a whole nother yeah.
It's difficult. Yeah. But you know what I'm looking forward to? And if it doesn't happen, you know what? I had fun trying and the people I've been working with are just amazing. So I'm just going to keep an open mind. I just feel like it's going to happen. So that's what I'm manifesting.
I'm sure it'll definitely happen. So that must have been interesting. Like, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, how did that all materialize?
I was really shocked because I didn't even know they were looking at me. I do a show called J Live on Tuesdays. And what I do is I go on Facebook or social media and I open up the floor. I put a link out there and I tell people, come and see me. And it makes, because I love doing off the cuff readings. I don't, I just like to talk to people like that. I don't like people thinking that I've looked them up. It's one of the biggest complaints people have with any psychic or any medium, because, I recently started a business where we're going to be helping people like that, but it's one of the biggest complaints. So I thought, I'm going to just do this show raw and live, unscripted with Jay. So people come on. And so I guess there were a couple scouts watching. They've been watching for a while. And then, of course, I'm connected to a couple other people that are in TV and film. And so I guess word gets around. But I got a call one day from someone and they said, we're really interested in casting you for this show. And they're, me? And they said, yeah, they said it was imperative that we speak with you. So I said, okay. So then finally, when I asked the producer, who is it that approached you? Because I was really curious, who's talking about me? He goes, it's the actual production company. And they're really, he goes, yeah, their talent scouts have been checking me out for a while. So I was shocked because I didn't even think that was possible. I did. people don't do that anymore. It's like you apply for stuff and you cast or you don't. But but it's the third time I'm approached. One I did refuse on Netflix, but I'm really happy I did because it was really a bomb. So it was really good.
That's
And I don't even want to mention the show, but I just had the worst feeling about it, and I'm glad I did. So yay for Jay! It's a good day.
Yeah, that's always important because I mean, as any person who's ever been in the television industry, I mean, you kind of take whatever you can get. You just because the amount of gigs you actually get are very, very little. And
Yes.
then when your intuition goes, there's just something wrong. And spirits kind of go, yeah, Jay, it's probably not the best thing for you.
It wasn't my thing, and I just thought, I'm not that desperate. I just didn't want to do something that I wasn't supposed to, I guess. And it just wasn't me. So I just said no, but I'm so glad, I'm so glad I followed my gut with it. And so here I am. But, there's so many things going on right now. I'm just so thankful. So there's reasons why certain things didn't get done because there's other things that need to be done, and I'm sure you understand that, of course,
Oh,
you
Lord,
know.
about it.
Yeah.
Roll my
Yeah.
head a few times. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's really interesting how things could change and so quickly in that. Yeah, so let's talk about James because for those who are listening, James Van Prague is kind of I call him like the OG of psychic mediumships. Like he's been around for a long time, and I
That's awesome.
remember him as one of my first mediums that I like a book that I read about mediumship. And like him and John Edward are kind of the two people, stuff like that. So how did you two meet? Like how did that happen?
Well, we were on the same roster. We had a wonderful manager out of California, and she decided to represent me, and to help me in Canada, the U.S. Well, the thing was to help me in my career in the U.S. And what had happened though was James was getting ready to retire, so she felt it was better that we do a tour in Canada. But we were on the same roster. There was Monica the medium, Lisa Williams is on that roster. There was myself, James Van Prague, Barbara DeAngelis,
Okay.
Debbie Ford, and and I love Debbie Ford.
Yeah.
And there was Moses. The Moses Code. Who wrote the? What's his name? I forget his name. The guy who wrote the Moses Code, and there's a couple other guys on there, but amazing people. And what was great about that roster is that that agent would interconnect a lot of her clients. And so I'd asked to work with Lisa because I loved Lisa Williams. I always thought she was an amazing lady. And Monica the medium was very young, but she had a really successful show on TV. But really, my big thing was James. Like you, I always loved him. I always had a great respect for him. And he made me feel like I was normal when I was younger with the show Beyond. And that's what I loved about him. And I felt we had a lot of the same style. And so when I talked to my manager about it, she says, let me talk to him. And, I had asked her, and then it just became, so she made it happen, which was really great. And so we went on tour for 2 weeks. We were together for 15 days, actually. And poor guy, because he's so used to the States, and he's not used to like God's country, like bush and moose and bugs and stuff. And driving, we drove from Hamilton because I drove all over the province, but I drove him from Ottawa all the way to Timmins. And what a grueling drive, right? Like you're talking hours. And I learned that he loves Bruce Springsteen a lot because we listened to a lot of music from that. But he's hilarious. He's funny. We spent a lot of time together walking, talking, and we did some training together, which was amazing. And it's funny because I was supposed to go to New York City after to meet with him. Oops, excuse me, to meet with him to train some people in New York City because he'd asked me to join him. And I couldn't go because I had 4 shows in New York City. I was going to do some shows for APAP in Hell's Kitchen area in New York City. So I had 4 shows back to back in 2 days. So I couldn't make the training, but I was so honored that he asked me, But I felt really good. He taught me quite a bit, but he taught me a lot of confidence stuff because he made me feel good. And yeah, he made me feel good about my abilities, and he's like really amazing. And so it was a good experience. I got to work with, how some people say rock royalty, well, psychic royalty, I guess, is what
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
say. And I got to meet quite a few people through him as well, which was nice. Got to meet Colette Baron Reed. I got to meet a few people. So he's amazing. I just talked to him the other day, in fact, and he's grown a beard. He looks really great and just a really good person. But he's still kind of doing his readings. He told me he wanted to retire, and he really has an aspiration to write music and to work in policing. And it's funny because I play the
So
piano and I work in
bizarre. That is
policing.
like that's like the same thing that you do.
Yeah, we're very connected, and he's an amazing guy, but he's really, and he knows, I've never met anybody that knows astrology so well like he does. Like, he looked at my chart in 2 seconds, told me exactly who I was. And then I told him, he says, Tennessee is going to be very important for you, Jay. Remember driving, right? I said, James, Tennessee is no longer important for me. I said, I'm not working with my cousin anymore. He goes, no, 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 no. I'm telling you right now, Jay, Tennessee's going to be important. Tennessee's hugely important. My whole management team is there, and they approached me too, so which is weird. I didn't approach anyone, so which is
I
kind of
mean,
cool.
at this stage of your life, is anything really weird now? Is it just
No,
more like it's coincidence? It's like, spirits got their thing. They connected you two together. Everything just
yeah,
kind of worked out. I mean, the
yeah.
just I
Who'd
love
think?
these stories. Yeah.
Who'd think? Like, I always tell my manager, like, I know who you're connected to. Like, 'cause I was so intimidated by him, but I met him by reading for him. That's how I met him, and he was
Wow.
like high, 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 high up there, and I was so intimidated. And the first time I read for him was on New Year's Day. And he said he's a workaholic, he's at work, but he wants a reading today. And I'm there, oh my God, it's New Year's freaking day. And they said, are you hungover? I said, I don't drink. They said, good, you're reading for him. So my manager set it up, and I did a reading for him. But I was very in his face about the reading because I thought, he's a very tough businessman,
Yep.
and he comes across that way, but he's got a heart of gold and he's a beautiful person. But I told him exactly what I thought and what I felt. And I was so bluntly honest with him, he came back. And
Yeah.
then I didn't hear from him for about a year and a half. And then he came back to me and said, are you still associated with this person or this person or this person? And I said, no, actually, I'm no longer associated with these three people. And they're no one that I've mentioned here today. They were other people. And he said, great. He says, we're going to work together. I said, what? He goes, you need a manager, Jay. I said, okay. So we need a manager. So that's it. So
There
here
it
I
is.
am.
Right there it
Yeah.
is. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. It's so interesting too, and I always love these stories where everything just lines up. And because a lot of this podcast is about inspiration stories,
Mhm.
and when you start, paying attention to what source wants you to do and everything else, things just kind of line up for you, and they line up fast. And there's not a lot of work and effort involved. It just flows. It's just like this
Yes,
flow state, and you meet
it
one
does.
person, meet the other person, and this is kind of like even with this podcast, it's like the same thing. One person led me to this person, led me to this person, and you just go with the flow.
You do.
Yeah, and it's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I can't say too much more about it, but yeah, it's fantastic.
And
Yeah,
so when we're fire like that, you have to. I'm fire as well. I'm December fire. But the thing is, I'm go 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 all the time, and I need to like have a finger in every pot. And during this pandemic, like, I had to cancel quite a few tours. I had to cancel my whole touring system in the US. I had stand up live. I had shows in Alabama. I had shows in Tennessee that I couldn't do. So we canceled all of that. And so I started another little business on the side, and I've been doing that just because I want to help other people. But I've been super busy. But I'm telling you, it's just always a labor of love. Like, I can't help but do what I do. And people say, don't you get tired from working so much? I don't really think this is work. I think this is enjoyable. Yeah, it's time consuming, but I just love it so much that I can't help but do it. So
so
yeah.
what's this other project you got going on? You talk about
Oh,
that?
yeah, I can actually. I started, and I know you know Amber Price because she's
Yes, just a
just
little
amazing.
shout out to Miss Amber Price there.
Yay, Amber.
Yeah,
And Liz Brock. Do you know Liz?
yep, I actually just had her on.
There you go. So these are two wonderful people. And I met Amber. She was actually the person who hosted us when we were at the McIntyre in Hamilton, James and I. And so she introduced us because we didn't have anyone to do the intros down south. And so she did them for us. And I met Liz through her later on. But when you just connect with someone
Yeah.
and you just know their heart right away, Amber was like that for me. So we had planned a tour, of course, for last year, and it didn't work out because of the pandemic. And so I called her one day on a whim and I said, Amber, I have to tell you this. I have an idea for this, this, and this. She goes, oh my God, I've been thinking of this, this, and this. And so she goes, I'd really like to get Liz involved. But right away, it was like, yes, yes, call Liz. And I had met Liz because Liz had interviewed me for a radio show, but I loved her right away. But I didn't really know how connected these two were. I knew they were connected, but not as much, how they were connected. But I fell in love with her immediately. She has a heart of gold. You could tell that, what you see is what you get
Yeah, there's no
with
fluff
both of
there.
them. Yeah, there's none. But what I loved about them was their business savvy, extremely intellectual ladies, very business savvy. Amber's a clarity expert, but she's such a beautiful way of helping people. And I'd had her do a reading for my husband after his father died, because it's hard for me to read my own.
Of
It's
course.
just better when you have someone else do it. But when I looked at her reading, I thought, oh my God, I just love this person. Like, she just had such a beautiful way. And then Liz, of course. So we started talking about our desires, and we started a business called the Psychic Associates. Now, there's a lot to it. We can't talk about everything, but really what we wanted to do was help people get established in their holistic business, whether you're a psychic, medium, a Reiki practitioner, an energy healer, whatever the case may be, because there's a lot of challenges to starting this type of business. And
Yes.
there's a lot of, there's no guidelines. There's no standards. There's, if you learn from one person, you're learning their style. If you're learning, and then once the course is over, there's no more continuity of your, of what's going on. And so, and I get so many letters, Jay, could you mentor me? Oh, I'd love to, but I don't have the time. But this is specifically to make the time to do this. What we've done is all three of us, we get together and we discuss certain topics, how to stay safe, this, that, what happens if someone wants to commit suicide? What do you do? There's no resources for people. And most of these light workers, some of them have never been in an office or worked in an office, so they have no clue what to do.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 of these people have no insurance. They don't know how to,
Yeah.
or they don't know what their liabilities are. They don't have any disclaimers. So there's really nothing. And I remember going through and looking for insurance, and someone said, we don't know how to insure you. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, there's nothing to class it on. It's not like you're a doctor. It's not like so there's nothing there's no guidelines for it. So what we decided to do was set some standards for this industry in an ethical way, and whether people want to do it or not. But what we want to do is we want to educate people. So we have beginners courses, we have intermediate, advanced, not on how to become a psychic, but just to work your business, all kinds of different things and challenges that you run into. And between the three of us, we have so many years of experience, and especially we failed at a lot of things, which is good, because there's a lot of things that I've done that I haven't necessarily been successful, but it's because I didn't know how to do it, or I didn't know who to talk to. Well, this is going to give these people all of these resources and support. So it's not like, you do one course, then you're gone. You're a member, you're part of this for a whole year, and we will, go over, any weaknesses that you have. Are you having difficulties? Are you having this? Are you having that? So I'm really excited. There's a lot of, kind of aspects to the whole thing we're doing. Is going to be a monster site, but it's going to be amazing. And we're going to offer these resources to people to help them get started. So I'm super excited. And I think it's going to go really well, but we're expanding to other areas as well, which I can't really talk about right now, but it's going to be an amazing ride. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's something that we all want to retire with. So I think it's just such a passionate part of Liz and Amber as well, to help people. And so we decided to form this associates company. So we're really excited about it. And so we're ready to launch very soon, probably in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I've heard little bits about this from interviewing both of those ladies. Yeah, I mean, you got some two powerhouses behind you for sure. I
Yeah,
mean, absolutely.
absolutely. Oh,
And
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this information is so important. I mean, I've been through that way of, trying to figure out and being in a clinic and trying to figure out, what your liabilities are, what things could happen that, that could show up in your business. Like I've had some crazy stuff happen to me, and it's like, there's nobody to teach you that stuff. And unless you have like a medical degree and things like that, things coming up. And it's so important for out there to let
Mm.
people understand that there's a lot of pitfalls and traps that you could fall into, and that you got to make sure that you're prepared for that. So yeah, should be really, really amazing. So the time frame, do you guys have a time frame for launching? Do we have one?
I'm hoping June, and as we're working on other things, but it's going exceptionally well. We've got quite a bit done already, and it's going to be really great. We have a really wonderful IT person who really sees the vision, and she's actually very intuitive herself. So we have a really good team, and so I've no doubt that it will be successful. But I'm anxious to start helping people because I mean, I get so many letters every single day. Jay, what do I do with this? Or what do I do with that? Or how do I get started? Where can I read? Who can I talk to? You know, and it's like, and some people just don't know what to do. They don't know. And so I was lucky. I had a lot of doors open for me, but the things that I tried to do on my own sometimes was difficult. And so I'm very happy that I had the management that I had very early on in my career, because they taught me, you're putting way too much effort into this, or boy, you're really not charging enough for yourself, or geez, you really have to look at this, or oh, you need a safety plan, there's so many different things to this business, and it's there's so many aspects. I mean, people can do so much. I mean, I work with police, I do haunting. I mean, there's so many different facets. So we want to try to address all of them. We're even going to talk about the paranormal. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and I think it's important, and it's kind of like this idea behind my podcast is to cover a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
Because a lot of the information out there, a lot of people are just craving information, a variety of different topics, and
Yeah.
there's not a lot of good quality information. And it's always having people like yourself on who had the experience that could just kind of spark them, get them in the right direction. And that's what it's really about, is giving that inspiration and that information to really help them, and just that spark. Okay, oh my God, that was a great thing. Where can I find out more about that? Oh, Jay's got this. Oh, this is great. Oh, Liz, and it's like, bang. Now that leads them to down this path. And it's been fantastic on that.
It's interesting because all three of us talk about a certain subject. So you're not just getting the information from one person. You're getting what happened to Amber, what happened to Liz, and what happened to Jay, and how we dealt with it. So it gives people a lot of options. Did this work for you? No, it didn't. Okay, but this worked for me. Oh yeah, I could see how that would work. So the thing is, you're getting information from three totally different people, three totally different ways of reading, three totally different energies. And we all do our thing differently, which is perfect. And then we all respect what we do as well. So the thing is, and it's really to get the message out to Michael that like workers should work together. We're
Yeah.
not against each other. And we see a lot of competition in this business. And I understand that, because when I first started, I was very insecure. And I was very, oh my God, I can't refer someone to someone else, because what if they take all my clients? And it's so silly to think like that. But you grow out of that very quickly when you start understanding the bigger picture and why you're doing things. So you grow with it. But I put myself there years and years ago, and I'm thinking, geez, if I feel like that and Amber feels like that and Liz felt like that, I'm sure everybody, so many people do. So we want to give the strength. We don't want people repeating mistakes, and we want to be able to help them get from A to B very quickly without having to repeat the mistakes that we've made. Or, sometimes, and I hate to say it, to be taken advantage by other people, or to align with people that don't really serve your purpose.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I could almost call you guys metaphysical mentors.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love that. And that's basically what you are. You're mentoring people out there too, as well. And you're inspiring people. You're uplifting them and helping them out, which is so important. I think this is what we need. This is how we get through all this stuff, is together, not
Yeah.
separate. It's together.
It's tough. People have employees they can talk to. They have employee assistant programs. But in this business, if you just sat with someone who's suicidal, and then your next person's suicidal, and then you've had two in a row, and then you don't know what to do with that energy, and you have no one to talk to, you
Yeah.
know, or, you had something terrible happen, but you can't really tell your friends because it's confidential. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have that support system, people that you could trust, and people that have been through it, you
Yeah.
know. So, and that's what I bring to the table, because I mean, I've worked in policing, I've worked in courts, so I know how to stay safe. I know rules and regulations, who to refer to, and I don't know everything, but I know where to get my resources. And then Amber's worked in HR, Liz has worked in marketing and sales, and I mean, it's a perfect combination. So I'm really, really excited, because these ladies are extremely knowledgeable as well. So I think people are going to be very, very happy with the information they get. So I'm really super pumped.
Yeah.
But June can't come fast enough. Yeah.
I bet you're just like itching at it like that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. I
fantastic.
know.
So that being said, Jay, we're almost out of time here. It just blew
I
by.
know. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, I just feel like you're like one of my sisters. I
Yeah.
just, yeah, just chat, chat, chat. So if people are looking for you, Jay, on the World Wide Web, they want a reading. I know your project is not out there yet, but it's going to be out there. But in the meantime, where can they find you?
They can find me at mediumjlane.com. So they can go read about me, book sessions there, group sessions. Also, they can find us at thepsychicassociates.com, and they can register to be on our mailing list, so that we can feed them a little tidbits of information as we're starting to open. So I'd encourage people to definitely register at thepsychicassociates.com. And then, of course, mediumjlane.com.
Beautiful. And yeah, highly recommend that. I think that's going to be a fantastic program there, everybody. So if you're listening out there, you got a new business, you want to kind of get started, but don't know where to start, this is a perfect opportunity. You have three powerhouse goddesses. They're going to lead you through this. And I'm so excited for you guys, and so thankful that you came on the show today. And that being said, Jay, I'm just going to close off the show. This has been the Metaphysical Mentor Podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.